So part 2 of this inventories assignment gets a little more detailed. It shows us what we purchased each month and at what price we made that purchase. And how I set this up is I put the instructions in this part 2 tab down here, and then for each method I created its own tab just to, I don't know, I was hoping it would kind of make things less confusing, so hopefully I don't throw anybody off. But so in part 2, it shows us that the company Two Wheels operates on a fiscal year beginning January 1st. At the beginning of the year, the shop had 6 bikes at $394 each. That's what they had paid for those 6 bikes. And then during the year, the business made the following purchases, as you can see here. And then at the end of the period, we have 7 bikes left over in inventory at the end of the year. Then it also tells us that each bike throughout the year was sold at $675 each. So our directions tell us we need to use the Fifo method, LIFO, and weighted average cost to determine the cost of the ending inventory using each of these methods. So then we need to calculate the cost of merchandise sold under each inventory using each costing method. And then we also have to prepare a partial income statement, so just showing our revenues and minusing our expenses for each of these methods. So let's get started. First, we're looking at the FIFO method. And I put all the information at the top that we're going to need. So first, in this FIFO method, we need to, I put this table to show the total that we paid for each bike, which, well, yeah, so we want a total and find a total amount of the cost of merchandise that we have available. So we can copy our dates down into here, and we want to call this beginning inventory, and this was an extra purchase, as was the rest of these, because these were purchases that we made on each of these dates. And then on each of these dates we made this number of purchases. I'm big on copy and paste so I don't waste a lot of time retyping all this information. And then I can find my cost per unit in this column. So then now I need to find the total that I spent for each of these purchases at the prices that I paid per unit. So that's done pretty easily with one of our formulas. We can just find our 6 bikes at $394 each. That leaves us, so that tells us that we had $2,364 worth of merchandise for sale on January 1st. And then we added all of these purchases in with it. Okay, so you should be multiplying the number of bikes times however much each unit costs to find the total amount for that purchase. So on January 20th, we purchased 4 more bikes at $399 a bike, means that we paid $1,596 for that total purchase on January 20th, and so on down the line. So we have a total amount of units. We can say let's equal up the sum of all of these numbers here. Gives us a total of 35 units. So we have 35 units available for sale. Okay, and then our total cost of merchandise then that we have available for sale is going to be the sum of these cells. Okay, so we have 35 units available, and the cost of those 35 units totaled $14,545. So now, using the FIFO method, we need to determine the price of our ending inventory. So we have 7 bicycles left over. So using the FIFO method, again, this means that the first bikes that came in are going to be the first bikes that we sold out. So if we have 7 bikes left over of 35, that means we sold Let's do some quick math here. We sold 28 bikes, okay? So of all of these bikes that were purchased, we sold 28 of them. And the Fifo method means that the bikes that we bought first were the bikes that we shipped out first. Okay, so therefore the 28 bikes sold are assumed to be as follows. So what you're going to do now is kind of do some math here. So we want to add up until we hit 28 bikes, and then whatever's left over is what we have left over. So for instance, we sold 6 bikes in January plus 4 bikes in January, so that's 10 bikes total, plus the 5 we purchased in March, that gives us 15, plus the 7 we purchased in April, that puts us at 22. So we need to come up with 6 more bikes because we sold 28. So that took up the amount that we purchased in August. So that puts us at 26. So we need 2 more bikes. So then that means we're going to take 2 more bikes out of October 3rd here. So I can copy. I know that all of these, I sold bikes from all of these different purchases. And I can put my descriptions. I can just copy and paste those down here. And then bicycle units. I can copy all of these because I know I sold all the units from each of those months, except for October 3rd. Let me just do some quick math here to show you where I'm at. So right now, I'm at 26 bikes. So I sold 28 bikes. So I need to come up with 2 more bikes from my October 3rd purchase, which I have 6, but I only need the 2 here. Let me stretch this down to, I'm at 26, but I need 2 more from my October to give me 28. I guess I probably should have just done that math right here. Okay, so there's the 28 bikes that I sold came from my beginning inventory, my January purchase, my March, April, August, and part of my October 3rd purchase. So then I know that my remaining bikes, what do I have? When I go back up to my list up here, I have 4 remaining from my October 3rd purchase, and then I still have the 3 left over from my November purchase. So I can copy those down to here. Change this to, I have 4 bikes left over from that October purchase. So those are my remaining bikes. And then, using my Fifo method, I need to figure out how much of those remaining bikes, what cost am I paying for those? So I can copy down the date of my purchases, number of bicycle units, cost per unit. Okay, so this is where I need to then go back up and find out what did I pay per unit in October when I made this purchase. And I see that I purchased these bikes at $430 a piece. So in October, I bought each bike at $430 a piece, and in November, I bought each bike at $435 a piece. So now I need to come up with my totals here. So I sold 4 bikes. Do it this way. I sold 4 bikes at $430 a piece. So that's $1,720 dollars worth of bikes that I have left for my October purchase. And then that also leaves me oops, I need to put my equal sign there. And I have $1,305 of bikes left over from my November purchase. So then to find the total amount of bikes that I have left over, I would want to equal the sum of these 2 numbers. Okay, so that means I have 7 bikes left over totaling $3,025 left. That's the cost of ending inventory. So I have 7 bikes left over in my inventory, and this is how much those 7 bikes cost me. So that is the first in, first out method. We looked at the bikes that we had left over from in order of our purchases. So we sold all the bikes that we had in first, because first in, first out, and what we had left over, we did the math to figure out the cost of that ending inventory. So that is the Fifo method. Okay, and then in the LIFO method, we're doing last in, first out. So the same thing here. So I put this in here. You can just copy and paste. I wanted you to have each the table, a full table on each of these pages. We can just copy from our Fifo page to put into our LIFO page. Those are the same amounts. And so now we're figuring out, we still have those 7 bicycles left over. So using the LIFO method, the 7 bikes remaining in stock are from the beginning inventory of the 6 units and from our beginning inventory and 1 unit from our January 20th purchase. So therefore, the cost of the 7 bicycles is what we need to figure out. So now of the 28 bikes that we sold off all of these first and part of our January 20th purchase. That's how the last in, first out method works. So what we have left then is our January 1st, our beginning inventory of 6 bikes at a cost of $394 per bike. Then we have our January 20th, because we have 7 bikes left over, so we have 1 left over from our January 20th purchase, totaling 7 bikes that we have left over. And our January 20th was purchased at $399. So now we need to figure the total cost for each of these purchases. Oops, and this is a multiplication, taking 6 times $394, and here we're taking 1 at $399. That tells us it's going to be $399. And then for our total amount of the cost of merchandise that we have left, we're going to add these 2 numbers together, and voila, we have $2,763 valued. These 7 bikes are valued at $2,763 because with this last in, first out method, we paid. That's why some businesses choose this method, is because you're getting rid of your more expensive bikes first, and that way you're left with the bikes that cost you less. So that works better for some businesses that way. Businesses that sell food might not work out so well, because you're not going to want to leave that food left over. So this should be your total amount for the last in, first out method, and I will continue with the rest of the lesson in the next video, or the rest of the assignment.